think you're good.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, and I'll call this meeting to order. Smithville Village Council. Roll call.
Allen,
Here.
Haas,
Here.
Eicher, Mullins, she's coming. Reed,
Here.
Thorne,
Here.
everybody.
Okay, you should have received a copy of the minutes of our last meeting. If you've had the opportunity to review those, I would entertain a motion and a second for approval.
A motion to approve the minutes of the March 16th, 2021 meeting.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to approve the meeting minutes from March 16th. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, roll call.
Allen,
Yes.
Haas,
Yes.
Eicher. Yes. Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Okay, we will have a police report the next meeting. So the only correspondence that I have is obviously village-wide yard sales will be Saturday, April 24th. Also following that on the Monday, April 26th, will be the spring large trash pickup by Kimball. Does anyone else have any correspondence they want to share? If not, then we're going to move on into the old business. The only item under old business, if you recall the prior meeting, we had sent to you basically information regarding the proposal for engineering services from GPD Group. And this would be for the sidewalk project that we would slate for 2022. And it will be Fairlawn Street. Again, too, you should have had that information. And Jason has prepared for us an ordinance, basically entering into a contract. And it's ordinance, it's going to be ordinance 2021-4. And it's an ordinance authorizing a contract with GPD Group for replacement of sidewalks and or new on Fairlawn Avenue, declare an emergency. And again, too, we will need to suspend. So I'd entertain a motion to suspend in a second.
Motion to suspend.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and second to suspend. Any
who was
discussion?
second? I'm sorry. Thank you.
Any discussion on the suspension? Hearing none, roll call.
Haas,
Yes.
Eicher, Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Okay. Again, now at this point, we're considering ordinance 2021-4. And again, it's the ordinance authorizing contract with GDP Group for replacement of sidewalks in Fairlawn Avenue and declare an emergency. And again, the amounts listed there are $28,870. That is under the amount that was appropriated in the 5-year capital plan, so we're good there. So I would entertain a motion in a second.
Just, Mayor, before we make the motion,
Sure.
just for my clarification, this is a replacement, not a new install. Is that correct?
No, it's actually a new install.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Should it be worded that way?
We will probably need Jason, and that was unfortunately not caught by me. But there are no sidewalks on Fairlawn Street. So.
Yeah, do you want me to just put installation instead of replacement?
Correct.
Okay, so if we approve that as amended, I can get that over tomorrow.
That sounds great. So if that's okay with the group, I would entertain a motion in a second.
Motion to approve the amendment 2021-4 for the installation of sidewalks along Fair Lawn Street and entering into the contract with GDC and Associates as
Thank
amended.
you. Thank you, Scott. And a second? Okay, we have motion and a second. Any discussion on the ordinance itself? Hearing none, roll call.
Hitcher, Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
yes,
Haas.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anything else that council has for old business? If there isn't, we're going to move into new business. The items you have there first, you should have the March 2021 income tax revenue report. Obviously, through the first 3 months of the year, you will see that we are tracking to the positive side at this point. Again, though, there are variations. I think that once we get through the first half of the year, we should have a good indication. But at this point in time, obviously, we're tracking very positive relative to what we've projected. So that's good. The other items financially that you should have received, you should have received the March monthly financial report showing each of the funds, estimated revenues or year-to-date revenues, then showing appropriations, and then showing the actual year-to-date expenses. So again, that's a monthly financial report. If you had time to review, I do entertain a motion in a second to approve that report.
motion to approve the March financial report.
Second. Okay, thanks, Trish. Any questions on the financial report?
Just had a general question, not necessarily about the report itself, but about some financial things. As I was listening to WQKT today, there was a mention on the news about some funding that was coming through, I think from the federal government, but through the state level or through the county level for.
Yeah, we're getting another round of money, and I sent that to you, Tom. I think it was only 25.
I think 20, I want to say 29.
Yes, yeah.
25, 20, correct.
So yeah, we'll be getting additional money, and there's very specific purposes that it can be used for. One of them is water and sewer infrastructure. So Tom and I have already talked about the uses of those funds.
Correct.
Okay,
And again, I'll share a little bit more about that specifically later on when I give my report. Any other questions on the financial report? If not, I'd ask for roll call.
Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes,
Haas. Hitcher,
Yes.
Okay, the other items you should have received a statement of cash position also through March 31st. Again, that shows each of the funds. It shows obviously the current ending balances after any encumbrances. Again, that just tracks each of the funds for cash balance purposes. The other things you would have received was the detailed revenue report showing the revenue relative to each of the line items, and also the detailed expense report. Again, that shows detail on all the expenses for the month. You should have received all those, but we don't need approval on those. So if you have any questions on any of those, obviously you could always direct those to Pam or myself. So moving on then, the next item after the financial items is that we do have before us from CT Consultants. This would be our annual general engineering contract. Again, we work under a master contract with obviously CT, and they do task orders. Every year we do an annual task order. It's called the general, and it's for the same amount as last year for $12,000. This is obviously a task order that allows us to have them perform or do certain tasks of engineering, questions or otherwise, that do not relate to a specific project. Obviously, we're not building anything against this task order, obviously, unless they actually perform work under it. So that would be the first one. And again, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve that task order for me to sign.
Motion to approve the Village of Smithville task order with CT Consultants for the general engineering consultations 2021.
Second.
Second.
Okay. We have motion and second. Are there any questions relative to that task order? Hearing none, roll call.
Reed, Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
yes,
Haas,
Yes.
Heicher, Mullins,
Yes.
Okay. The next item on there is also from CT Consultants. And this would be a task order that relates to the OPWC sanitary sewer relining project that we had submitted to OPWC. As you recall, we were not funded under the normal OPWC round of funding, but we have received notification with the scoring for the small government funding. It is our belief that we're well within the funding score in which to receive funding under that program. And what this order or task order is, basically is to ask CT or to obviously pay them and engage them to prepare bid documents for this project. Again, my instructions to them is they'll prepare bid documents. We will wait until May when we receive the actual notification relative to the small government funding. Once we receive that, we'll be prepared in which to place, obviously, the bid documents out for bidding. That way it will allow us to receive bids prior to, obviously, July, to allow us to review those and be in a position once we receive funding notification from OPWC in July, then we'd be prepared in which to move forward with awarding a contract. So again, what this is, and if you look at it, you'll see there is some design work. It basically covers everything in relationship to their administering of that project for us. And again, the total of that is on the document, and I was looking here, I think is at $14,250. So any questions on that task order? If there isn't, then I would entertain a motion and a second to approve that task order with CT Consultants.
Motion
Motion approved.
Go ahead.
Motion approves task order for CT Consultants regarding OPWC.
Second.
Okay, we have motion and a second. Any discussion or questions on that approval? Hearing none, roll call.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
yes,
Haas.
Yeah.
Okay. Heicher, Mullins,
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
All right, thank you. The next item on the agenda basically is an ordinance that will create a new fund, which will be Fund 270. It is specifically for drug use prevention grant. It is something that Chief Barnett has applied for. And again, it would be drug use prevention grant to be utilized within the school setting. And again, it's another funding source that she's gone out to look for. So again, this will establish a fund for us to actually place those monies and obviously pay expenses out of. Again, this will be on, we don't have any urgency, so we're going to leave it for 3 readings. So the intent would be tonight just to pass it on first reading. So are there any questions on what it is that we're doing with the ordinance? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance 20. Well, and what we will do is we'll wait until we actually go to 3rd reading. We'll assign the number to it. So at this point, it's an ordinance establishing Fund 270, Drug Use Prevention Grant Fund.
Motion to place on first reading the ordinance to establish Fund 270 for drug prevention in the schools as applied for by Chief Barnett.
second,
Okay, thank you, Larry. So we have motion and second. Any questions on the ordinance itself? Hearing none, roll call.
Allen,
Yes.
Haas. Yes.
Yes.
Heicher. Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other items from council for new business we need to consider this evening? If there aren't any, we'll move on to liaison reports and we'll go to equipment and Scott.
Yeah, just a general update from the group. Mr. Mayor, I know you were already included in this correspondence from Mike Turner regarding the sale of our older skid steer. We had an appraisal completed for us by Lau and Young, and best case scenario, best value for that machine was about $8,500, and it was placed on the auction website, and with the few days left in the auction, it was currently bid to be well above that value. So that was a really smart move by Mike and the rest of the team that was involved with putting that on the website to increase the return to the village. That's all I have.
Okay. Any questions for Scott? If not, we'll move on to fire. Larry?
I have nothing tonight. Sorry.
Okay. There's nothing else with police. Move on to Veterans Memorial with Joseph.
Nothing new for Veterans Memorial.
Okay. Then moving on to Parks and Trees, Matt.
Night, as everybody can see this evening, Mike Turner will be turning on the water in the restrooms in the village park here in the next week or so, just to make sure that we're out of the woods for any night. Stay at 7 o'clock, Village Hall. We have another park board meeting. That's it.
Okay. Moving on to streets and sidewalks, John. I take that. He has nothing to report. Okay. Then moving on, we'll go to finance and personnel. Tricia.
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. As far as mayor's report, there's a couple items on there for your information. Our online utility payments system will be set up and live as of May 11th. So we're just a little bit over 30 days. I know that they've been going through all the necessary steps, obviously to establish obviously the payment system. And again, also too, I know that they've been going through some initial training, but there'll be additional training for Becky and Beverly on that. But again, the intention is that we'll have it up and available on May the 11th, which means obviously for May bills, that cycle on when those bills are due, people will have the option in which to do that. Again, we're going to attempt to get the message out there so people are aware that it'll be available as well.
Hey, Tom, does that include income tax too at that point?
Yeah, it should include income tax at that point too.
Okay.
And again, we'll obviously have to make that communication there. You know, on that same topic of communication, we do believe that the sign that we've obviously been working with to replace the sign that was needing to be replaced because of the condition of it at Village Hall, that new electronic sign should be here relatively that time frame, which will allow us to communicate very easily to the public about that. And obviously it'll be on the website as well and direct people there. So yes, we should be good there. The other item on here is standard construction specifications. Again, that was something that as far as the last time it was reviewed was in 2001. Given that there was a lot that was really needing to be updated, I did reach out to Ryan Marthy. He was a former BPA chair when he lived within the village. He currently is a engineer for the Wayne County Engineering Department. I approached him about reviewing it, saying it was something that he was willing to work with us on. Again, as you recall, One of the things that we did was we do have him on the salary ordinance, basically for an advisory capacity. So when there's things that we're looking for an engineer's eyes, even if it's to review documents from our engineers, we have him available. And again, too, he did take the books, he's reviewing those, and he's going to report back to me on that. So hopefully we'll be able to update those at some point. The other thing that's being worked on that Becky did prepare for me is with the new sign coming on board, we knew that we needed to have a policy in place relative to any other individuals or entities wanting to use the sign for a publication of events. She has a draft policy that I'm going to send to Jason, have him review it. And again, too, she did put something together by looking at what other communities have and then tailoring it to what we felt might work for us. What we will do is once Jason has reviewed it first, I'll probably get it out to the group. That way you can have input on it as well. And we're hoping to get that approved in the next couple of meetings. So that way we'll have something in place. I believe that once the sign is up, there may be requests by individuals or entities for us to use that sign. That's one of the things. The other thing on the BPA side, as Pam had alluded before, we had talked, one of the projects that had been out there for the sewer plant for quite some time is the master breaker panel. And when I say master breaker panel, it's like a wall. And it was built in the original building. We've had major issues. Part of the problem is components aren't available for it. Plus there's a lot of the wiring that is totally, obviously no longer has any protective coating on it that are running through the conduits. So we have had major issues, and every time we have an issue, you know, it's substantial amount that we're paying. We did get one quote from Millersburg Electric. It thus far appears that it will fall under the 50,000 bid limit. So we did ask for other, basically other electrical firms in which to give us quotes. We're still working on getting a second quote. Even though it's under the bid amount, we'd like to have 2 quotes. And one of the things that we talked about, given the amount, we're looking that it could be between 45 and 48,000. Again, in talking with Pam, one of the things with the new money that's come, it is available for sewer and water projects, which will come in very handy because we believe then with also what we have in the improvement fund in the sewer, we should be able to cover the cost of that. And it is something that we hadn't necessarily anticipated, but this year already we had a major expense on it, and it makes sense to go ahead and move forward and make that improvement. So again, that is our intent for the use of that money. We felt that it made sense that it was money that we didn't anticipate and came to us, and it allows us to also address a problem that we didn't anticipate at this point in time. So I think that's it. BPA will meet, as you see it on the bottom of the schedule, on April 12th at 6 p.m. They're working on a number of things in relationship to different tasks. Obviously, one of the things they're considering also is a master study of all the sewer lines to determine where do we go from here in relationship to I&I. The other thing that they're considering is a proposal of an idea of an amnesty program on the private side in relationship to sump pumps and lateral replacements or downspouts being rerouted. Because again, the belief is that we have a large amount of inflow directly from private side. And again, what the concept would be is that we would basically give them an amnesty, and we obviously would limit it, how much we would commit per year. But what we do is a pilot program, make it available to an area that we anticipate maybe having the greatest problem, and see whether or not homeowners would allow us to test and have it removed. Because again, the amnesty would not require them to make payment for those removals. And again, the attempt is that obviously the EPA wants us to eliminate I&I. And again, given there's so much on the private side, we feel as though it's something that we need to consider. So they're working on that. Also, all of you probably can see that the water tower is moving forward rather rapidly. Obviously, the steel crew has been in, has been working on that, but they are working 6 days on, I believe 8 days off. So you will see that obviously break and go back home, given that most of those individuals are from other states that are working on the project. I think those are the only things that I have Are there any questions for me this evening? If there aren't any questions for me, then we'll move on. I see that we have bills to be approved. You should have received a bill list of the bills to be approved for this evening.
Motion to approve the bills in the amount of $65,932.18.
Second, Thorne.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve bills. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, roll call.
Goff,
Yes.
Heicher, Mullins,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Thorne,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Okay. You'll see notice about the upcoming meetings, April 12th for BPA. Our next council meeting will be April 20th. If there's nothing else to be brought before us, then I would entertain a motion to adjourn in a second.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Go ahead, Chris. You can have it.
All right. So we have motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me.